Somewhere in the paddock right now, someone is saying it again, quietly, the way you say things you can't prove, that the takeover plan is already in motion, that the sale of Gene Haas's team isn't a question of if anymore, only when, that Toyota didn't come back to Formula One to sponsor someone else's name, it came back to inherit it. Nobody says it into a microphone, and that silence is exactly what this story is about, so stay close and consider the subscribe, because everyone who said it out loud and put money behind it has been thrown out of the room. The only company that never made an offer is the one already living in the house. Hold that thought against the record, because the record is brutal in its own right. Michael Andretti, motorsport royalty, serious backing, came for this team more than once, refused. Others followed. By the team's own account, the offers stacked up year after year, and Ayao Komatsu, the man who runs the operation daily, says Gene Haas turned down every single one of them. Not negotiated. Refused. As recently as last summer, reporting revealed the approaches were still coming, and that the 73-year-old owner wasn't flattered by any of it. He was irritated. Irritated that people keep pricing a thing he insists has no price. Ask him what he wants, Komatsu says, and it's never a number. It's always the same 4 words. How do we go faster? That should end the story. It doesn't. Because the facts that keep the sale rumor alive don't care what anyone insists. Gene Haas is 73. He owns this team completely alone. No board, no shareholders, no co-owner, the last true one-man team left on the grid. A structure the sport will never permit again. He's already dismantled one racing empire in his lifetime, winding his 4-car NASCAR Cup operation down to almost nothing. And the asset he's sitting on has never been worth more. Formula One teams now trade at valuations that would have sounded insane the day he founded this one. Every piece of that is public. Stack the pieces, and you understand why the paddock stopped asking whether the sale happens and started guessing the year. Now put the last piece on the table, the one that turns a succession story into something stranger. Toyota, the company woven deeper into this team than any outsider in its history, has never bid for it. Not once, on any record, anywhere. No offer, no option. Not even a right of first refusal. By Komatsu's account, the subject has never come up in a single conversation. A global giant that once burned $3 billion trying to win in Formula One and left with nothing, came back, walked past the front door everyone else was hammering on, and started paying for the walls instead. Its money grew the staff, its name went on the car, its drivers fill the test program, its simulator sits inside the factory. So this is the trial the whole video conducts. The paddock's charge, there's a takeover plan running in plain sight, and the sale is inevitable. The defense, every word the owner has ever said. And the evidence. The evidence is what Toyota keeps building while both sides talk. Let's weigh it. Start with the prosecution's case, because it's stronger than most people realize, and not one piece of it needs a rumor. Exhibit 1 is the man himself. Gene Haas built his fortune on machine tools, built this team from nothing in 2016, and built it his way, the leanest structure in the sport. Engine and gearbox bought from Ferrari, chassis built by Dallara, everything expensive outsourced to someone else. That model made him the last of a species. Every other operation on this grid answers to a corporation, a consortium, a fund, a board. Haas answers to Haas. One signature sells the entire team. No partners to convince, no shareholders to sue, no committee to stall. In a sport that now demands corporate scale just to survive, the paddock looks at that structure and sees something that can't last. A one-man team ends when the one man does. Second exhibit, what he's already done once. This isn't a hypothetical about whether Gene Haas is capable of winding down a racing empire. He's done it, recently, in front of everyone. The NASCAR operation he co-owned ran 4 Cup Series cars at its height. He shut Stewart Haas Racing down and carried on with a fraction of what it was. Nobody forced that. It was a 70-something owner, consolidating, simplifying, choosing which of his possessions still mattered. The paddock watched him do it and drew the obvious conclusion. The man is already deciding what he keeps. Formula One made the cut that day. The question the sale theory lives on is how many more times that decision gets made. The third exhibit is the money, and the money has gone insane. When this team debuted, backmarker operations were things owners struggled to give away. Whole teams changed hands for a pound, for a dollar, for the price of their debts. That world is gone. Cost caps, American money, and a fixed number of entries have turned every slot on this grid into scarce property, and buying an existing team has proven far easier than building a new one. Just ask Michael Andretti, who spent years trying to force his way onto this grid, made multiple overtures for this exact team, and got refused like everyone else. Gene Haas is sitting on the most valuable thing he's ever owned, at 73, with no co-owner and no publicly named successor. That's the prosecution's whole case. And notice what it doesn't need: a single leak, a single source, a single invented document. Just arithmetic. Formula One itself keeps proving the point, loudly. When Audi decided it wanted onto this grid, it didn't apply for a new entry and fight the politics. It bought Sauber outright, years in advance, and waited for its moment. Ownership of an existing slot has become the only reliable door into Formula One, and every giant car maker circling the sport knows it, which makes a one-man team with a 73-year-old sole owner the single most watched piece of property in the paddock, whether the man himself likes it or not. Now add the part that turns arithmetic into a theory, because so far, nothing you've heard involves Toyota at all. Here's what Toyota has actually built inside that team, item by item, all of it on the record. Since the partnership began in late 2024, the workforce has grown from around 230 people toward 380, a hiring wave Komatsu has said flatly would have been impossible without Toyota's backing. Toyota's money revived a testing program the team could never afford alone. 14 days of private running in the old car across 2025. At Silverstone, Imola, Mugello, Fuji, with Toyota's champions doing most of the driving. A driver-in-loop simulator, the first Haas has ever owned, came online at Banbury for 2026, funded by Toyota, ending 2 decades of renting Ferraris. Reporting from late 2025 pointed to a Toyota-financed wind tunnel in the UK on top of it. And in December 2025, the relationship stopped being a partnership and became an identity. The title sponsorship, the rebrand, Toyota's name on the entry itself, TGR Haas. Read that list the way the prosecution reads it, and a pattern jumps out. Staff, infrastructure, drivers, data, name. Every layer of what makes a Formula One team a team, Toyota now funds, supplies, or occupies, except one: the deed. A company doesn't need a takeover plan written down anywhere if it's already installed itself as the thing the team can't function without. In that reading, the offers everyone else keeps making are the amateur move. Why bid for a house that isn't for sale when you can become its plumbing, its wiring, its foundation, and wait for the day the owner, or whoever comes after the owner, has no realistic buyer left but you? It's a seductive theory. Here's the first crack in it. Toyota has done the ownership thing before, and it produced the most expensive failure in the company's sporting history. From 2002 to 2009, Toyota ran a full works team. Its own chassis, its own engine, its own factory, total control, and spent close to $3 billion without winning one single race. 8 seasons, nothing. The lesson Toyota's leadership took from that era wasn't next time buy better. It was that owning everything taught them nothing. A bloated operation where accountability drowned in corporate process. So when Akio Toyoda finally brought the company back, listen to the language he chose. Not conquest, apprenticeship. Young drivers taking, in his words, their first steps toward the world stage. Toyota, he said, had finally begun to move. And by Komatsu's own account, one of Toyota's first questions when the deal was forming wasn't about control at all. It was whether Ferrari, the partner Haas depends on, would be okay with it. That's not nothing, and the defense is only getting started. Because when you cross-examine each piece of the prosecution's evidence, something inconvenient happens. Every single one has an innocent explanation that fits the facts just as well. The headcount growth? Komatsu has explained exactly what Toyota gets from it, and it isn't a beachhead, it's a classroom. Formula One, he said, solves problems in 2 weeks that would take a corporation 3 months, and Toyota is paying to run its people through that pressure cooker. People, product, pipeline. The mantra's been public since day one. The test program? It's capped by regulation. 20 days a year. previously raced parts only, and Haas has used it for things no takeover requires. A farewell run for Romain Grosjean 5 years after his fire, with Komatsu playing race engineer for the day. A look at McLaren's Formula 2 champion, a driver from a rival stable. That's not an occupation force, that's a team using a tool. Even the seats tell the wrong story for the prosecution. When Haas needed a new reserve this year, it signed Jack Doohan, Red Bull Academy, Alpine history, no Toyota connection whatsoever. And the engine, the one piece of the car Toyota has never touched, might be the strongest defense exhibit of all. A company plotting to own this team would need a power unit ready, because the Ferrari supply is the deepest dependency Haas has. Ask Toyota about building one, and the answer has been consistent: no plans. Komatsu has gone further, calling Ferrari the foundation. Without that collaboration, he said, the team isn't there at all, and describing Toyota's arrival as addition, never substitution. Not a case of replacing one with another, in his words. Meanwhile, the man at the center of it keeps behaving like the opposite of a seller. The offers still come. Last summer it emerged, they'd kept coming, repeatedly, and that Gene Haas found the whole spectacle irritating. Sellers testing the market don't get annoyed when the market calls. And there's one more detail the takeover theory has to explain away. In all those conversations between Haas and Toyota, a mechanism for a future sale, a first refusal, an option, anything, has, by Komatsu's account, never even come up. Not negotiated and rejected. Never raised. Stalemate then. The prosecution has motive, means, and a pattern. The defense has every witness. And this is the point where most versions of this story pick a side and start shouting, "Don't." Because the truly unsettling thing about this case isn't either verdict. It's what the two verdicts have in common. Run the innocent version forward 10 years. Toyota keeps funding, keeps training, keeps embedding, sincerely, with no plan beyond its pipeline, and becomes, year by year, more load-bearing inside that team than Ferrari ever was. Now run the guilty version forward. Toyota executes its patient scheme by funding, training, embedding, and waiting. The two stories are identical. Same actions, same investments, same press releases. The only difference between partnership and preparation is a decision nobody has to make until the day Gene Haas's signature is finally, for whatever reason, available. That's what makes this theory immortal in the paddock. There's no evidence that could kill it, because the innocent behavior and the strategic behavior look exactly the same from outside. Toyota never has to want the team for the theory to work. It only has to be standing closest when the music stops. Which drags one last fact into the light, the one the whole trial keeps circling without touching. Every denial in this story is real, and every denial shares the same silent limit. Gene's not selling. Present tense. No engine plans. At this moment. Not interested. Today. Each statement is true the day it's spoken, and expires the day circumstances change. And circumstances have a way of changing for 73-year-old sole owners of billion-dollar assets. The prosecution can't prove a plan. The defense can't promise a future. And somewhere between those two failures sits the only person whose opinion has ever actually mattered. A machinist from California who keeps answering the most expensive question in motorsport with the same 4 words. How do we go faster? For now. So the verdict. Here's the only honest one available, and it's the most unsettling option on the table. Not guilty, and not innocent either, because this was never really a trial about Toyota. Strip everything else away, and it's a trial about time. And time is the one witness money can't cross-examine. Think about what every player in this story actually controls. Gene Haas controls the answer, but only for as long as he's the one being asked. Toyota controls its patience, which costs it nothing and gains it everything either way. The paddock controls nothing but the whisper, and the whisper has already outlasted a decade of denials. And none of them, not the owner, not the corporation, not the market circling overhead, controls the calendar. Every no in this story is true. Every no in this story is also dated. Gene's not selling. No engine plans at this moment. Not interested. Today. Formula One has heard permanent-sounding answers before. From team owners, from champions. From empires that looked eternal right up until the morning they weren't. And when that morning comes for this team, whenever it comes, however it comes, retirement, succession, a simple change of heart at 75 or 85, walk through what the moment actually looks like. A one-man team with no board and no heir apparent needs exactly one signature to change hands. The buyer would need Formula One experience, operational knowledge of the team, infrastructure already integrated, a relationship with the staff, the factory, the culture, the financial weight to satisfy a valuation that's been climbing for years. Read that list twice. There's a company that checks every line, and it didn't check them by bidding, it checked them by building, patiently, publicly, one funded simulator and one hired engineer at a time, while every rival suitor got shown the door for asking too directly. That's the version of inevitable that survives the fact check, not a plan in a drawer. Not a deal already done, nothing supports that, and the man's word deserves to be taken at face value. Something quieter and harder to argue with. A future where the question finally changes hands, and only one bidder is already standing in the room when it does. Your call then, because this one genuinely splits the paddock. When Gene Haas's signature finally becomes available, next year or in 20, is there any realistic future where it doesn't end up on a contract with Toyota's name on it? Or is the last one-man team in Formula One about to prove everybody wrong one final time and outlast the corporation living in its walls? Put your verdict in the comments, inevitable or immortal, because the answer decides who was really on trial here. And somewhere in California, a machinist is reading all of it, still asking the only question he's ever cared about. How do we go faster? How do we go faster? How do we go faster?